I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, cracking down. The White House announces sanctions against both Iran and China. We have the latest. Impeachment proceedings. A busy day on Capitol Hill, including a Senate trial and votes on bills for foreign aid and U.S. safety. Fight for the unborn. A report from Poland on the efforts to make abortion legal for the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. And study on seminarians. Analysis of newly released numbers regarding the men who will be ordained as priests this year. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, the White House announces new sanctions against Iran after the country launched an unprecedented direct attack against Israel. And that is not the only crackdown. The U.S. is also restricting China for its unfair business practices. We are learning more about both actions tonight. Video captures the scene over Israel after Iran launched hundreds of enemy drones and missiles at the Jewish state. Now, days after the attack, the United States says that it will punish Iran with new sanctions.
And over the last 3 years, we have actually sanctioned over 600 individuals and entities connected to the full range of Iran's problematic and dangerous behavior.
The move is aimed at Iran's military production, defense ministry, and Islamic Revolutionary Guard. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan adds, "We will not hesitate to continue to take action in coordination with allies and partners around the world, and with Congress to hold the Iranian government accountable for its malicious and destabilizing actions." China also faces pressure from the U.S. President Joe Biden accuses the communist country of unfair trade practices.
They're not competing. They're cheating. They're cheating. And we've seen the damage here in America.
In front of a group of U.S. steelworkers in Pittsburgh, Biden announced new tariffs against Chinese steel, designed to protect American producers from a flood of cheap imports.
Because Chinese steel companies produce a lot more steel than China needs, it ends up dumping extra steel into the global markets at unfairly low prices. And the prices are unfairly low because China's steel companies don't need to worry about making a profit because the Chinese government is subsidizing them so heavily.
The levies also extend to Chinese aluminum. The White House insists the move is not a campaign ploy catering to people in Pennsylvania, a key swing state. Still, the president continues his outreach to voters tomorrow with a planned trip to Philadelphia. Well, as the U.S. announces sanctions on Tehran, Western diplomats are urging Israel to use restraint in response to Iran's attacks. The foreign secretaries from the UK and Germany met with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, along with members of Israel's war cabinet. Afterward, David Cameron said that he hoped that anything Israel does is limited and as targeted and as smart as possible. Despite the good intentions, Netanyahu wanted to make one thing clear.
I thank our friends for their support for the defense of Israel. And I say this, both support in words and support in actions. They also have all kinds of suggestions and advice. I appreciate it, but I want to make it clear. We will make our own decisions, and the state of Israel will do everything necessary to defend itself.
As Israel contemplates a response, Iran issues a warning.
If
the tiniest invasion is made by the Zionist regime against our homeland or our interests, they must be certain that they will face a very massive and harsh response.
Iran's president spoke at an annual army parade in Tehran. The strike over the weekend was apparently in retaliation for the Israeli attack on Iran's embassy compound in Syria that killed senior military officials. And for more on the escalating tensions between Israel and Iran, let's bring in Mideast expert Claire Lopez, founder and president of Lopez Liberty LLC. Claire, always good to see you. According to the Congressional Research Service, Washington's sanctions on Iran already ban nearly all U.S. trade with the country, block the government's assets in the U.S., and prohibit U.S. foreign assistance and arms sales. That said, what more would sanctions accomplish here?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So back in 2015, when
the JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or the Iran deal, came into effect, there was wording in that agreement that prohibited, no, I shouldn't say prohibited, called upon the Iranian regime to not develop, produce, sell, export missiles and drones. Now that wording expired last October 2023. Other sanctions then were imposed by the United States, and more recently now, there have been sanctions imposed against not just the drones and the missiles, but also against Iranian oil exports, energy exports. The problem has been, though, enforcement. There has been little to no enforcement of sanctions so far imposed against the Iranian regime, whether it be for the drones and missiles, which they're selling openly to Russia to murder Ukrainians, or for the export of oil and natural gas to places like Iraq and China. So while new sanctions might be welcome, yes, and by the way, the European Union is meeting today and tomorrow in Brussels to discuss also imposition of sanctions. The point about that is enforcement. Are they going to be enforced?
Yeah, and Claire, in lieu of sanctions, what do you think the United States and other countries should do in this instance?
Well, I mean, I think that the imposition of sanctions and the announcement about them is all to the good, whether it's the United States and or the European Union. But again, what has to happen is a demonstration of the will of the participants, the signatories to such sanction regimes, the willingness to actually enforce those sanctions. And unless that happens, it's really, all for naught.
Yeah, not a whole lot of time left, but I want to talk about this. Iran strikes on Israel, apparently in retaliation for Israel's attack on Iran's embassy in Syria. And as we know, Israel is considering a response. How do you see this all playing out?
Well, the first thing to note very quickly is that the strike in Damascus was against a building, not part of any diplomatic facility of Iran. It was a separate building nearby, sort of, kind of, but it was a military command post for the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Quds Force, and their top commander for Syria and Lebanon, and for the attacks of October 7, 2023 against Israel. Mohammad Reza Zahedi, he and other officials were taken out there. What will happen now in the wake of this past weekend, 13-14 April attack, by Iran directly from Iranian soil using missiles and drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, drones against Israel? There has to be a retaliation. There has to be a response. I heard the clip you played of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking there. I think that there will be a hard and very serious retaliatory strike. We don't know what that will be yet. Could be against oil production, export facilities, for example, or maybe against some of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force, command and military facilities inside of Iran. But I think that retaliatory strike is coming.
Claire, we're almost out of time, but I quickly want to ask you this in about 10 seconds or so. How concerned are you about Iran's nuclear capabilities, and how concerned should we be?
We should be very concerned. Iran, according to the IAEA itself, has been developing nuclear weapons for decades. In my personal opinion, I think that they probably already have a small handful of warheads, nuclear warheads. Whether they've attached them yet to the nose cones of their missiles, maybe not yet. But the problem is that they are enriching uranium, according to the IAEA, at an accelerated pace right now, enough to make more warheads in a week, 2 weeks, a month. And that has to have us very concerned.
Absolutely, Claire. Thanks so much for coming on. I always appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
Well, amid the tension between Iran and Israel, foreign ministers of the G7 nations are meeting on the Italian resort island of Capri. At the top of the agenda, sanctions on Iran. The ministers are expected to call for more targeted sanctions against Tehran in the wake of the attack on Israel. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived on Capri as the White House says U.S. sanctions would target Iran's missile and drone program. The leaders are also expected to call for restraint on the part of Israel to prevent further escalation. Well, a busy and historic day on Capitol Hill today, from a Senate impeachment trial to trying to find an agreement to fund Israel and Ukraine while also trying to keep America safe. We begin in the Senate with the impeachment trial of DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who is accused of willfully and systematically refusing to comply with the law regarding America's borders. For more, let's check in with Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales. Eric.
Well, good evening, Tracy. Yes, a very busy day. Democrats were hoping to bring a swift end to these impeachment proceedings, and that's exactly what they did under Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Well, he ended up getting it done very quickly. After senators were sworn in as jurors, the majority leader laid out the ground rules, saying that he was only allowing 60 minutes of debate for each charge, and then a vote would take place to dismiss the charges altogether. Republicans objected and said that they wanted a full trial because this is what the Constitution demands. Then the majority leader called for a vote to dismiss the first and second impeachment charges, claiming that they were unconstitutional, to which Republicans objected again. Republicans say that the evidence is clear. Alejandro Mayorkas failed to enforce the laws that he was sworn to protect and even lied to Congress.
Never before in the history of our republic has the Senate dismissed or tabled articles of impeachment when the impeached individual was alive and had not resigned. As Senator Schumer said in 2020, quote, "A fair trial has witnesses. A fair trial has relevant documents as part of the record. A fair trial seeks the truth. Nothing more, nothing less."
The majority leader's position is asking members of this Senate to vote on political expediency to avoid listening to arguments. The only rational way to resolve this question is actually to debate it, to consider the Constitution and consider the law.
Republicans then made several motions to adjourn the trial till a later date. They were all defeated. In the end, the first and second articles of impeachment were deemed unconstitutional by a floor vote. They passed along party lines. Bottom line, Mayorkas dodged an impeachment trial altogether, but Republicans tell me that he actually set a precedent now that any cabinet member could lie to Congress. He would have been only the second cabinet member to be impeached in U.S. history since 1876. If he had been found guilty, he would have been removed from office and in some cases disqualified from holding public offices in the future. Republicans warn that there will be consequences like slowing down business on the Senate floor in the near future. Meanwhile, let's move to the other side. In the House earlier today, lawmakers are finally reading over the text of the $95 billion foreign aid bill. You may recall that I reported Speaker Mike Johnson wanted to pass 4 separate bills in just the end of this week, and one to fund Israel, another to fund Ukraine and Taiwan, and a 4th bill to fund defense priorities. Now, just today, the Speaker added a 5th bill that would fund border security and immigration. Pretty much the same components that are found in H.R. 2, a similar bill that passed in the House last year, but it remains a non-starter over in the Senate. A vote is expected on Saturday night, but the drum is beating louder against Speaker Mike Johnson. I spoke with Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is leading the charge, along with Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky.
I've been saying this all along, that there were other members that support this. Unfortunately, here we go. We can get this one. Yeah. But now you're seeing as Thomas Massie came forward this morning, and I think that shows the credibility to this.
It's strictly on his votes, how he's been doing.
Of course, yes. It's based on how he's leading, and he's leading for Joe Biden's agenda. He's not being the Republican speaker, passing with Democrat majority against the majority of the majority. That's Republicans, and that's not any way to lead the Republican majority conference.
By the way, both Greene and Massie have asked Speaker Johnson to resign, or they will seek to remove him from the job. I've also learned that Wisconsin Congressman Mike Gallagher is delaying his resignation from Congress because of these foreign aid bills. He was supposed to leave Congress on April 19th. Just a reminder, next week Congress is out, and some members have already signed up for congressional trips, and that could be very messy for Republican leaders if there is a Saturday vote. I'll continue to keep you updated. Tracy?
Okay, thank you, Eric. Busy day indeed there on the Hill. Well, President Biden has weighed in on national security legislation for Ukraine and Israel. In an op-ed in today's Wall Street Journal, he appeals to readers to remember what's at stake. Both Ukraine and Israel are under attack by brazen adversaries that seek their annihilation. Mr. Putin wants to subjugate the people of Ukraine and absorb their nation into a new Russian empire. The government of Iran wants to destroy Israel forever, wiping the world's only Jewish state off the map. America must never accept either outcome, not only because we stand up for our friends, but because our security is on the line, too. Well, aircraft manufacturer Boeing is in the spotlight once again. Today, members of Congress heard from a whistleblower who made serious safety allegations about two of the company's biggest planes.
I literally saw people jumping on the pieces of the airplane to get them to align. I call it the Tarzan effect, among other improper methods. Again, I raised concerns internally. I was sidelined. I was told to shut up. I received physical threats. My boss said, I would have killed someone who said what you said in a meeting.
Engineer Sam Salahpour, who you just heard from right there, alleges the company took shortcuts when it made its 777 and 787 Dreamliner jets. Boeing says the claims are not accurate. The FAA is also investigating. All right, staying on Capitol Hill, the president of Columbia University told lawmakers that she denounces anti-Semitism on college campuses. She also defended herself against claims that she allowed the school to become, quote, a hotbed of hate.
Regrettably, the events of October 7th brought to the fore an undercurrent of anti-Semitism that is a major challenge, and like many other universities, Columbia has seen a rise in anti-Semitic incidents.
Manu Shavik took a stronger stand on anti-Semitism than a similar hearing late last year. The presidents of Ivy League schools, University of Pennsylvania and Harvard, later resigned following their testimony. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including the fight for life. We talked to a representative from Poland's March for Life about the new government's pro-abortion push. And the Holy Father explains how learning to moderate our desires can lead to true happiness. Welcome back now to a story that we have been following, the push in Poland to allow abortion until the 12th week of pregnancy. Pro-lifers held a rally last weekend to support the unborn. It was part of a day of prayer by the country's Catholic bishops. Currently, abortion is allowed in Poland only in rare cases, including if the mother's life or health is at risk. For analysis, we turn now to Magdalena Korzekwa-Kalishuk from Poland's National March for Life. Magdalena, good to have you on the show today. Talk to us a little bit more about the efforts from the new government to legalize abortion in Poland up to 12 weeks, and what is behind it?
Unfortunately, our government is trying to force the abortion bill in Polish parliament. And 1 week ago, we had the huge debate in the parliament. There are 4 bills discussed in the parliament. The bill is about abortion up to 12 weeks, about having back eugenic abortion, I mean abortion on sick babies in Poland. This kind of abortion is not allowed in Poland since 2020. And we had a discussion about forcing all the doctors to perform abortion. Right now, when a doctor is against abortion, she or he is against abortion in his or her conscience, can say no and is not obliged to do it. And the government is trying to oblige all the doctors to perform abortion.
Magdalena, let's talk about the march over the weekend. Give us a sense of how many people attended and what are people saying about this new abortion push in Poland?
Yeah, the March for Life, National March for Life, organized by St. Benedict Foundation and Coalition for Life, gathered 50,000 people who say no to the abortion bill of our government. The March for Life was a huge demonstration for life. Obviously, we work in Poland for years for life, for kids, for families. However, this year is very special because for the first time we have a serious danger in the parliament.
And how's the church responding to all of this?
Church supported the march very much. Bishops officially, Polish Catholic bishops officially supported the march and invited all the people to come to Warsaw and to attend the march. We can count on our church in Poland all the time when something happens in Poland, we are sure our bishop supports us.
And what else are people doing over there to sort of, raise awareness about what's going on and to keep this from happening?
Well, we have many challenges in Poland regarding illegal abortions, regarding abortion on sick babies. Legally, abortion on sick babies, on a baby with a Down syndrome and on a baby with other sicknesses, is not allowed. It's not legal in Poland, but we know that it happens. Not so much as at the time when it was legal, but it happens. The job we do as a pro-life movement is to inform about the development of the child before the child is born, about the value of each life. In my foundation, Pro-Elia Group Foundation, we used to show stories of families who accepted a baby with a sickness. Those families show the value of a life, even when the child is very sick, even when the child is going to die shortly after the birth. Each life is a miracle, each life is valuable, and it's a dream to live in Poland where abortion is unthinkable.
Well, Magdalena, thank you for coming on and shedding light on this for us. We appreciate it. God bless you, and we're praying for Poland.
Thank you very much.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, the path to priesthood. Find out how community involvement and upbringing play a role for those who are about to be ordained. Plus, the Holy Father explains the benefits and importance of self-control. Thanks for staying with us. A new survey finds the latest group of soon-to-be ordained priests are younger than in years past. The Center for Applied Research, or CARA, at Georgetown University found that half of the seminarians graduating this year will be 31 years old or younger when they are ordained. On average, since 1999, most ordinands were typically in their mid-30s. Additionally, the survey found that the majority of seminarians first considered becoming a priest when they were only 16 years old, and 90% said they usually received encouragement to do so from their parish priest, a fellow parishioner, and or a friend. And to tell us more about the study is Father Thomas Gahn, Executive Director of CARA. Father, good to be with you today. A lot to discuss, but first, for those who may not be familiar with CARA, would you tell us more about it and the purpose of conducting this annual study?
CARA was established 60 years ago by Cardinal Cushing to serve the research needs of the Catholic Church in the United States, particularly through social science research. So CARA began studying or surveying the newly ordained priest in the late 90s and has continued over the last 25 years with the support from the Bishops' Conference here in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and one of the study findings that came out from this recent survey that really stood out to us was that many of the ordinands were involved in their local communities while growing up, including being part of a parish youth group and other groups like Boy Scouts. Talk to us more about that and the significance of being part of a group that's faith-based and service-oriented.
I think it's just very key, it's commonsensical, that as younger children or young adults grow up within a faith context, where talking about your faith or praying together is not unusual, that there would be kind of more openness or receptivity to considering or discerning a vocation. So we see this also in terms of their exposure to Catholic education. What's notable is the more Catholic education you have as you get older, to high school or to college level, the greater the likelihood that one might discern a vocation as a priest or sister or brother in the church.
Yeah, and other findings included being baptized Catholic and having both parents who are Catholic were really major factors for the majority of the ordinands. That, of course, not really much of a surprise there, but what may seem surprising to some is that 45% of the ordinance said that they were discouraged from becoming a priest by someone close to them, such as their mother or father or maybe another family member. What more can you tell us about that, and how important is family support when it comes to discerning?
I think the family support is very critical, but just in general, encouragement is key. So it's really a rarity that we find anyone who says that they were not encouraged by at least several other people. And so generally we find, when we ask the ordinands, they can rattle off, 4, 5, 6 different people who encourage them to consider their vocation and call. This is true for priesthood and for religious life. And so it's that encouragement that is key, that young men find, whether it's the local pastor or parishioners or family members who encourage them to consider a vocation, that this is, year after year, we find consistently the importance of that encouragement.
Yeah, we're almost out of time, but I do want to talk about something else that kind of struck out to us. You also asked them about the most popular form of prayer. Tell us about that. What did they have to say?
So when we're asking in terms of their prayer and formation, they'll often cite Eucharistic adoration as a key factor, gathering, either by themselves or with others for the rosary, for Bible study. These are all key elements in terms of kind of nurturing their own prayer life and spiritual life.
Father Gaunt, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this with us. We appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you very much. God bless.
Well, finally tonight, Pope Francis reminds the faithful that moderation can fill us with happiness.
Le persone senza temperanza sono inaffidabili sempre.
At his weekly talk at the Vatican, the Holy Father said self-control is the virtue of the right measure. Pope Francis clarified that virtue does not make one gray and joyless, but rather lets one better enjoy the good things in life. And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night and God bless.